Hello YouTube, Dave here again. This week's I wanted to talk about the latest release for D&D 5th edition, which is part 2 of the Tyranny of Dragons campaign. It is the Rise of Tiamat, so this takes place directly after the events of Horde of the Dragon Queen, obviously. And I'll tell you what my thoughts are of this, and then the second part of the video is going to be all about the campaign as a whole. So without further ado, we'll get started on what I thought of the Rise of Tiamat book itself. Alright, so to start, it's very similar to the Horde of the Dragon Queen book. 96 pages, 35 Canadian, and $29.95 US. I don't know if that's going to show up or not. So the price isn't terrible, and I'll talk a little bit more. Talk more about that in a moment. But as far as the quality, the pages are the same kind of thicker, kind of rougher textured paper that Horde of the Dragon Queen had to reduce the costs. And I like the adventure, although the opening here, the disclaimer wasn't necessarily as good as the other ones, which I always thought were kind of clever. This one's just a very short. I almost missed it. I actually looked a couple of times to try to find it, and I finally did after a few moments of looking over the page. The adventure itself is a little more role-playing heavy than necessarily Horde of the Dragon Queen was. There's a lot of things where you are trying to get groups to kind of work together, use a little diplomacy and trying to get things like metallic dragons to actually work with the different humanoid factions, as opposed to simply on their own and attacking indiscriminately. And there's even a part where you get to go to the land of Thay and try to convince the Red Wizards to join. So there's a lot of potential for role-playing that I like. There's some nice layouts in terms of some of the events that take place. As the players do more and more, the Cult of the Dragon gets more aware of their presence and starts to organize attacks against them. So I like that element of it. And the attacks themselves are pretty well thought out, I thought. I like the way that they're done, and it shows just how serious things can get at higher levels because they get pretty deadly. On average, it seems that there's a little bit less art in this book. It might just be my my imagination, but the art that is here is really nice, but there's a lot of pages that are just text. So I guess they're just trying to cram as much into it as they can, and I can sort of appreciate that, although it would be nice to have a little bit more art. They have, of course, a bunch of maps and no actual fold-out maps or map booklets or anything like that, so you have to stick to what's in the actual book itself. But for the $35, it's not bad. I think this can be a pretty memorable adventure once you get through it. Again, there's a lot of potential for role-playing in this, which I think a lot of players will appreciate. And by the time you get this far into the campaign, I think even newer gamers will be used to it enough that they'll be more comfortable with the role-playing aspects of it. And then, of course, there's the final encounters towards the end here. A lot of fights with dragons, obviously. And then there's the battle with Tiamat herself, which looks like it's going to be a really awesome fight. I like that they structured the gods similar to what they did with 4th edition, in that even if you reduce them to 0, you don't necessarily kill them, you just defeat them and set them back a little bit. With Tiamat, though, if you drop her to 0 hit points, then she actually returns back to her prison in the 9 hells, so it's probably something that she wants to avoid at all costs. There are certain events that you can do in the adventure itself, which essentially can reduce her power and make her a little bit easier to fight. Although the book itself recommends not doing it just for the sake of making it easier. It's something that you really should pull out all the stops for if you can. As it is, I think it's going to be a decent adventure. I'm really looking forward to running it, actually, this part in particular. I do enjoy Horde of the Dragon Queen. I'll talk more about it when I discuss the campaign as a whole, but I think, the first book is pretty much all set up, leading up to the end game, which takes place over the course of this one. So this is the one that, I was really looking forward to, and it doesn't disappoint. The only really, again, negative thing that I can think of is there's no fold-out maps for people who like to use minis, and, I've said that with previous reviews of things, so I don't really want to beat the dead horse there too much. But it would be nice to see something. Maybe in the future they'll have ones that have that, or even just release map packs themselves for people who actually want to use the miniatures. There's a nice degree of complexity at the end when you're preparing for the final assault against the Cult of the Dragon and trying to prevent Tiamat from being summoned in the first place. So you actually get to do a little bit of strategy, sit down, assess what the enemy has for resources, and then assign your own resources in a way to sort of counteract it. A lot of this stuff is things that happen in the background, so the main focus will be the players actually infiltrating and trying to defeat the cult itself directly, and Tiamat herself if she is summoned. There is a possibility to prevent the summoning, although I think that would make for a somewhat anticlimactic end to the campaign. So I think I would probably end up allowing her to get summoned. So one of the interesting things is that this is supposed to be, the conclusion of a campaign, but it doesn't go all the way to 20th level. It stops around 15th. The players might be 16th level by the time they actually complete it. So it gives a little bit of leeway if you wanted to throw some extra things in there. If you wanted to design your own elements of the campaign, you could certainly do that. And it would allow, more experienced DMs to have a bit more open-endedness, I guess, to the campaign. So if the players want to go off and do something else, or if they kind of follow a red herring, for example, then you have some wiggle room in terms of the amount of levels to let them kind of do their own thing before you bring them back into the main story itself. There are several different ways to bring players back into the main story if they decide to wander off a bit. One of them can really be with those planned attacks by the cult itself. So this is a pretty solid book. I think the campaign itself altogether is pretty decent, but I'll go over sort of the pluses and minuses of it, as well as my thoughts on it altogether. So this book here, I give it a thumbs up. I give it a recommendation. I think that, if you're new to the game, you definitely owe it to yourself to pick up these. And it's a great resource in learning how to create stories and structures and stuff like that. And I think it's just a good story altogether. And I think something that even experienced players, once they get through it, will have a lot of fun. And this is something that, new and seasoned players alike could have different stories of how their interactions with this went. One of the interesting things that, about this is you can have it geared towards new players who, if they don't want to spend the money on the rule books, could just buy the adventures and print off the free rules online, because they have the PDFs for both Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat are available for free, and there's basic rules that, you can have at least the 4 iconic races and classes from 1st to 20th level free of charge. So the cost seems a little bit high sometimes if you look at it, but if you're just doing the free stuff, the basic rules, then this is a great way to get the most out of those rule sets, I think. So overall, I enjoyed this book. I look forward to running it. It's going to probably be a long time before I get the chance to, but when I do, I'm definitely going to enjoy every moment of it. So that was basically the book itself. Part 2 of the video is going to be all about the campaign as a whole. Before I get to that, though, I want to talk a little bit about something that's happening on November 15th. I'm part of a Facebook group, the YouTube RPG Brigade, and it's basically a page for people who make videos for YouTube on the subject of role-playing, or for fans of, RPGs who, want to find different personalities, I guess, that are making videos for it. They're hosting an event called Brigade Con. It's a gaming convention that's going on November 15th. It's a 24-hour thing. There's merchandise that you can buy. I'll include the link to the website for it below, and the proceeds of any of the sales or donations are going to go towards Child's Play, which is a charitable organization that's all about getting kids the gift of gaming, which I think is a really great thing. It's purely a virtual convention, so it's not something where you actually have to buy tickets and you have to go and attend. You can do it from the comfort of your own living room. And there's going to be things like there's going to be panels for discussions or Q&As, and there's going to be a lot of games being run. So if you get the chance, check it out, see if there's any games that you can still sign up for. I think it's totally a worthwhile cause, and I hope it's something that actually is really successful, because I'd like it to become a big thing and a way for gamers across the world to actually take part in a convention. because I know sometimes the big ones, it's hard for somebody like me to get to any of them because they're, all in the States or further away, and travel costs is just too prohibitive. So check it out. The link is provided below, and I hope that you have fun if you attend any of the events. So that was part 1 of my video. Stick around for part 2, where I talk about the Tyranny of Dragons campaign.